Hello, folks. Welcome to this episode of Al's Joint. I'll be joined by my co-host, Dennis Painter, as we tackle this administration's attempt to turn our cities into a battlefield. As the Gestapo, otherwise known as ICE, think it's okay to shoot American citizens in the streets. Let that sink in. So we pay homage to Bob Marley. Get up, stand up for your rights. Let's take the gloves off and let's get at it. So, here we are, partner. Another crazy week. Every time we think that the next week might be a little slower, this administration does something ridiculous, or the agencies that they're overseeing. We got the Gestapo and the brown shirts from Nazi Germany, and now we have ICE in the United States of America shooting American citizens. And everybody's starting to justify it, or I would say the far right-wing nuts and taka heads are starting to justify it. And we have American citizens fighting back and pushing back against this. So,
well, there's a couple of things I want to say. Number one, before we even get into this, I did a little research. ICE was supposedly sent there because the Somalians were creating fraud and committing crimes of fraud. And I read a couple of articles. One was a former ICE agent, and one is a current ICE agent. And they said they are not trained for detecting fraud. That is not their job. They're not trained to do it. And the current one said that's not what we were sent in to do. We weren't sent in to check the books for fraud. And so they were sent in really to, in my opinion, to create a situation that would escalate into violence so Trump could, create more violence. And that's what happened. I think it was sent in to agitate people. American people are going to stand up for their rights. And that's what they were doing. They're going to stand up for, their community. That's what they were doing. And they didn't get the agitation they wanted, so they created it. In the end, unfortunately, Renee Good was killed. And she was, to me, was an innocent person. At worst, she was demonstrating her right to protest. That's the worst thing she did. Now, of course, the administration has said all kinds of things. One was that she stalked him. I don't know how in the world you stalk somebody that covers their face and you don't know who they are. And then they said, well, she ran over him. Well, you ain't gonna run over somebody with a 3,000-pound car, get up and then shoot from the side with your phone in your hand. It just ain't gonna happen. And since then, they've sent in another 1,000 ICE agents. I'm concerned that Trump is trying to escalate a war in the United States against its own people. The killing of innocent people. We've seen this before in this country. And they make innocent people out to be the villain, when the villain's the one on TV trying to claim they're the angel.
Yeah, I believe that ICE was instructed that it's okay to shoot now, right? And this administration has blew up innocent people in boats in Venezuela, and it's natural for it to progress to the point where they're telling their agents it's okay to shoot. If you look at that film frame by frame, you'll see that he pulled his gun out as she was starting to move at about 5 miles an hour. And I believe they set her up. I believe that they told her to leave. She let one car go. She waved that car past her. She had a conversation with the officer, told him that, I don't blame you. And that doesn't seem like anybody is about to run anybody over. Her tires were pointed to the right. He steps in front of the vehicle, unholsters his weapon, and he fires shots at her. He shoots her in the face.
On Wednesday, in Minneapolis, a federal agent fatally shot a motorist, 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good. Trump administration officials said these were, quote, defensive shots, fired because the officer was being run over.
And a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over.
But our analysis of bystander footage, filmed from different angles, appears to show the agent was not in the path of the victim's SUV when he fired 3 shots at close range. Here's how events unfolded. Moments before the shooting, the victim's maroon SUV is stopped in the middle of the street. Multiple unmarked federal vehicles are idling nearby. Secretary Noem alleged the motorist, quote, was blocking the officers in. Bystanders are blowing whistles and yelling at federal agents.
Go home to Texas!
Then, federal vehicles start moving toward the maroon SUV, with sirens and lights blaring. A federal agent films the scene on his phone. The driver rolls forward slightly, turning left, then stops and waves for others to go ahead. 2 agents exit this silver pickup and walk toward the vehicle. Moments later, shots are fired. Let's look at the scene again more closely. This is the agent who shoots the driver. He walks around the car filming and disappears from view. Other agents pull up and order the driver to exit her vehicle. One of them grabs at the door handle and reaches inside. The SUV reverses, then turns right, apparently attempting to leave. At the same time, the agent filming crosses toward the left of the vehicle and grabs his gun. He opens fire on the motorist and continues shooting as she drives past. The moment the agent fires, he is standing here, to the left of the SUV, and the wheels are pointing to the right, away from the agent. This appears to conflict with allegations that the SUV was ramming or about to ram the officer. President Trump and others said the federal agent was hit by the SUV, often pointing to another video filmed from a different angle. And it's true that at this moment in this grainy low-resolution footage, it does look like the agent is being struck by the SUV. But when we synchronize it with the first clip, we can see the agent is not being run over. In fact, his feet are positioned away from the SUV. The SUV crashes into a white car parked down the road. A bystander runs toward the collision. The federal agents on scene do not appear to rush to provide emergency medical care. Eventually, the agent who shot the motorist approaches the vehicle. Seconds later, he turns back around and tells his colleagues to call 911.
Shame! You shot someone! You shot someone!
Agents block several bystanders who attempt to provide medical care, including one who identifies himself as a physician.
I go check a pulse!
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician!
I don't care!
At the same time, several agents, including the agent who opened fire, get in their vehicles and drive off, apparently altering the active crime scene.
To me, I believe it was premeditated. That was a plan to shoot a protester. They thought it would send fear into folks, but it's done the opposite. But it also is an additional distraction from the Epstein files.
Well, yeah, and let's go back to what, and I watched some news on this. The Minneapolis Police Department got on and said, look, first training that you get is do not step in front of a vehicle. Do not do that. Do not put yourself in danger. The second thing they said, and this is the Minneapolis Police Department, that the police are trained, do not shoot at a moving vehicle unless your life is in imminent danger. That clearly was not the case here. And from what I saw, the shots went through the side of the vehicle. Now, a 3,000-pound vehicle runs over top of me. I jump up, I got my phone still in my hand. I've already got my gun out and I still got my gun in my hand. It doesn't make sense. And the woman is smiling at him and saying, look, I'm not mad at you. Have a nice day. And then he kills her. Then he walks off and is recorded saying, you effing bitch. And then there was another woman in the car, doesn't go and check on the other woman. doesn't allow anybody to go see if anything could be done to save either one of them, and just walks off. And this is vigilante justice. And this should not be allowed in this country. You know, people have the right, if she did anything wrong, they had her license plate number, they could have tracked her down, they could arrest her, and she could have been going through the process, got herself an attorney, posted bond, gone to trial. But no, you have one person that is the arresting officer, the jury, and the convictor, and unfortunately, in this case, the executioner. And there's no evidence that's been supplied. Now, the other thing that bothers me is the FBI has moved in and said state investigators can't get involved in this. Okay. Now, why is that? My opinion is that Kash Patel's been told by Trump, don't let anybody else in on this. This is damaging. Okay. So the FBI holds the files and they'll release, just like they always have, what they want to release that will protect the president. And in this case, protect this guy. Now, I think all of that's wrong. I think that if the woman did anything illegal, she should be given the same rights as all other Americans. She should be arrested, go through the process, not executed.
But they also have to have a phase two that they whipped into play right away, right? They start labeling her as a domestic terrorist. They start going after her background. They start attacking her background with lies and slander. And they even tried to open an investigation with her significant other. And the hypocrisy here is so telling. I had folks we were in a discussion. They were saying, "Oh well, you want to protest? You F around and find out what the results of what happened." But then I asked one of the folks I was having a discussion with, "Well, Trump is talking about if any of the protesters in Iran are hurt or injured, that he's going to bomb Iran. So it's okay to protect the Iranian protesters, but American protesters get shot in the face and it's okay." That's the hypocrisy on the right. That's the MAGA hypocrisy.
Well, there's an exception to that. And that's the January 6th rioters who broke into the White House. Trump said on his fat ass and let them do it. He didn't call in the National Guard. And January 6th rioters didn't get shot. The state or the Capitol Police handled it as a containment situation, even though they were being attacked, even though they were being pepper sprayed, even though they were breaking into the Capitol. And to Trump, he supported that. They were protesters in his behalf. They were breaking the law, and he was okay with that. And one of the first things he did when he got in office was he pardoned all of those people. And I want to get to some of those pardons here in a little bit. And now he's saying a woman waving to an ICE agent saying, "Have a nice day, I'm not mad at you," is a terrorist. Well, guess what? We're all going to be labeled terrorists if we have a different opinion than Trump's. Okay, we're going back to the 50s, to the McCarthy period, where everyone was a communist if they had a different idea. If it was an artist, if it was a poet, if it was a writer, if it was union people, they had to sign anti-communist affidavits, because if we didn't sign them, we were communist. And so they're using this kind of situation to call us terrorists. Now we're what they call left-wing liberal terrorist. Now that's a label. But in reality, what we are Americans standing up for what we believe in, exercising our democratic rights under the Constitution. Okay. And Trump's trying to take that away by calling us terrorists. I have a real problem with him sitting on his fat ass on January 6th and then pardon those criminals the first day he gets in office, and then trying to say Renee Good is a terrorist.
The hypocrisy of the MAGA and the far right-wing nuts is so evident. And for folks, if they go back to the 60s and the civil rights movement, and you have Dr. Martin Luther King, and that whole movement preaching nonviolence. They actually trained these young folks to get used to being spit on, get used to being beat, get used to be called every name, every slur in the book, and to take it. And they did that. And the police officers then and the state troopers then still beat the hell out of those folks. They even killed. And so if a peaceful movement resulted in people getting the hell beat out of them and getting killed, what do you think that you would expect when somebody's actually protesting now and saying, hey, stop what you're doing is wrong?
And since you brought that up, civil rights movement, I was alive then, and I remember some of it. I wasn't involved in any of the marches. I was too young, but I remember it. And it was all based off of Martin Luther King's belief. We must be peaceful. We cannot invite violence by being violent. And it worked. But innocent people saying, we want equal rights. We want democracy. We want freedom. Got the crap beat out of them by the men in blue with badges, night batons, and guns. Okay. Now, I have people that I know have already automatically defended the ICE agent because they carried a gun, they carried a badge. Well, I'm sorry. Our history is unfortunately filled with those type of people who beat and kill or have killed innocent individuals simply because they are the law. They carry the badge, they carry the baton, they carry the gun, not based off the Constitution. And these ICE agents, and this is what a current ICE agent said, the training for ICE agents has been cut in half because they want to double the number of agents. And he said, you cannot teach everyone crowd containment and how to do that in that short a period of time. You can't do that. And with Trump calling in all the generals and telling them the time has changed. If they spit, you hit. He's given permission for not just the generals and our armed forces, but ISIS and local police force to use more force. That's not the law. The law should be followed. And I said it before, if they break the law, they should be prosecuted. That includes this ICE agent. But unfortunately, I don't think the law is going to apply to this ICE agent because now they say, oh, he has internal bleeding. Well, just like the boats they bombed in Venezuela, because they were bombed, all the evidence went to the bottom of the ocean. Well, this ICE agent now has internal bleeding, something that no one can see, no one can prove.
I believe he could have internal bleeding because you get ulcers when you shoot an innocent woman in the face for no reason, and those ulcers tend to bleed. But if not from any damage that woman done to him and bumping him as he jumped in front of a car that's going 5 miles an hour.
I told someone recently, I just had 22 stitches or 20 some stitches taken out of my head yesterday. And their Trump administration making excuses. He had an injury, 30 some stitches. Well, he shouldn't have been on duty if he's that traumatized, number one. But what I was telling the person, I said, well, okay, then I've had 20 some stitches taken out of my head. If that's an excusable excuse to kill somebody, then I can go out and kill somebody and I'm in the right. Well, no, you're not. Well, why not? The ICE agent did it. It's crazy.
There was more shootings. It wasn't just Miss Good. There was also 2 folks shot in Portland, Oregon. And those ICE agents had no videos on, and they claimed right away that the immigrants rammed their car into them repeatedly. They suffered no injuries, no video, but they shot both of those individuals. They found them away from the shooting, injured, and they took them to the hospital, got them treated, then put them in a ICE detention center. But that just goes to show you, had there not been video in Minnesota, you would have heard that this ICE agent had got ran over, right? So it just goes to show you that they've already given the green light that's okay to shoot. The thing that I don't, I'm have to disagree with you on this because you're still preaching nonviolence. My thoughts are an eye for an eye. If you shoot one of my relatives as an ICE agent and you was a judge, jury, and executioner, then I get to be the judge, jury, and executioner for you. Your badge doesn't allow you to break the law. So you broke the law as a man or a woman disguised in an ICE uniform. The people who I believe that are recruiting into ICE, I believe it's the Proud Boys, the white nationalists, folks who were too stupid to be regular police officers, and now they get this free run at it. Those are the folks who are out there. And unfortunately, even the trained police officers, like you talked about earlier in the 60s, committed crimes. These untrained folks, the only way you stop them, if they understand that there's repercussions for their actions, and I'm not talking about sending them through the system. So if they're going to be the judge, jury, and executioner, if your family member is killed or shot in the same situation that Miss Good or those other individuals were, I feel that you have a responsibility to your family members to become the judge, jury, and executioner as well. That's the way I look at it, because I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's only going to get worse until we shoot back, because it didn't stop in Germany. It didn't slow the Gestapo down because they were doing wrong. They still made sure that they killed 6 million Jews. It didn't stop the brown shirts, who were the equivalent of ICE, from beating up women and children and leading some of the Jews away to the Gestapo and to the concentration camps. That it never stopped them.
Well, I'm not going to go and advocate violence against violence at this period, because what I've seen is outrage all across the country. And if everything is accurate that I've seen, large mass demonstrations. And I think that's what we need to keep up. And we would not get that if we took an eye for an eye. Okay. People see Renee Good as a victim. I want to continue for people to see her as a victim and the ICE agent as a villain. I don't want them to see two villains. You know, two wrongs don't make a right. All right. And this is what, when I was in the labor movement, I used to tell bosses, you know, they would do something wrong, fire a guy, you got to bring him back. Well, he did this wrong. And I said, I agree, but you did it wrong too. And two wrongs don't make a right. All right. So you got to bring him back. And that would be the stance I'd take. And so at this stage of what's going on in this country, I think we're better off position ourselves to have the mass demonstrations and not become the villains. They're trying hard enough to make us the villains. I mean, because you and I doing this podcast, we're now left-wing terrorists. Even if we weren't doing it, you and I would be labeled left-wing terrorists. And so I want to keep the movement going. I want to keep the No King's Day marches going. I want to keep the positive message going that Trump needs to be removed. I want to keep the positive message that this ICE agent broke the law, that this ICE agent murdered another individual. This ICE agent needs to be brought to justice. That's the message I want. I don't want it to get convoluted. And then it really gets away from the real message. And the real message is, in my opinion, is ICE agents are acting illegal through Trump's orders. Okay? The FBI went in and got everybody out of there so they could allegedly do an investigation. They're not going to do an investigation. They're going to let this guy off. That's going to infuriate more people, okay, by them letting him off. So I want to stay on the positive and keep the marches going, keep the mass support. If you look at the polls now, that the majority of the Americans in this country oppose ICE. If we attack ICE, that number is going to change, okay? But the majority of the people at this point oppose ICE, And that has changed it within the last few months. I want it to continue to stay that they oppose ICE, not get split because we did something violent.
I understand your position.
I understand that you disagree with it.
Hey, let's move on to Trump's attempt to take over other countries. We know what he's doing in Venezuela. Now he's picking a fight with Denmark, saying that he wants to take Greenland and that there's no other option other than the United States possessing Greenland. I just I don't understand this. If it's not Iran, if it's not Venezuela, if it's not Canada, if it's not Iraq, this man is trying to do anything to start a major war. There's no other way around it. The Epstein scandal is so devastating to him and his presidency that it doesn't matter what he has to do. Because if you think about Greenland, if you're going to convince the folks in Greenland, hey, it's in your best interest, economically, protection-wise, to be under the umbrella of the United States, that's a political argument you have time to make. There's no rush. But to me, he's pushing all these issues because he needs all these distractions to take the attention away from the Epstein files. And guess what? It's working for most folks.
I just saw something a couple of days ago that said the generals told him they weren't going to invade Greenland. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see
I
that.
saw that.
Well,
Yeah,
if he gives them an
I
order,
saw-
they don't have a choice. They can
Well,
resign,
they're
but
saying they're not
somebody's
gonna
going to
do
do it.
Well, he's getting pushback if it is true. Now, I'm saying if it is true, because I only read the one article and I haven't had time to do a follow-up with it. But he's created so much disarray in this country, and he has to. He's got to start a war before the midterms, so he can declare that there's no elections. Because I saw him himself on social media saying, if we lose the midterms, I'm going to be impeached. And he said it twice. We got to win the midterms. So he knows what's at stake. So I agree with you in all this confusion for us, whether or not it's enough to break us away from the Epstein files. I don't know. I know I haven't given up on it. I won't give up on it. He's a pedophile, in my opinion, or at least he's associated with pedophiles. And the truth needs to come out. I know there's over 2 million documents, 5 million some pages that hasn't been released. So I know he's trying everything he can to get his name redacted to the point that he's not guilty. At least that's what it appears. So, but yeah, I agree. He's trying to create distractions all over. And he is creating distractions for the mainstream media. Okay, I think that is correct. Because they run from one story to the next.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I know the
do-
American people. I agree with you. I should correct that. I don't think the American people are going to let that go. But the media is running around following all these because it makes sense. There's never been a president that's going around saying the United States, we're going to take over other countries, that we're going to invade other countries while we're trying to convince the world that Russia is wrong for trying to invade Ukraine.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how that makes any sense. But the whole idea that he has to create a war or some major conflict that he can try to figure out a way not to have a midterm election, right? But I want to show you this video here where he's walking through a Ford plant in Detroit, and you can see there's one of the union workers. That's what we do, right? He
That's
is
what we
chanting,
do.
yeah, he's chanting pedophile protector, which he is. He actually should have been saying pedophile. You damn pedophile. He was sugarcoating it when he was calling him a pedophile protector. And as you can see, Trump says the United States president points at him and says, fuck you, and then shoots him a bird. Hats off to who I want to know who that worker is. If you have a GoFundMe page, set it up. If they do anything, actually, me and my co-host will come represent you for free in any union meeting. I know the UAW will be on top of that, but just to make sure that you're not targeted, you're an American hero. And actually, I couldn't tell whether he was given the thumbs up or the bird because his hands are so small. It looks like his middle finger is smaller than the average person's thumb.
If he did it more than once, first he didn't think and he put the thumbs up. Then he realized what he had done and he took it down and put the middle one up because he don't. Most of the time, Trump don't think. Okay,
He don't know what he's doing.
But no, kudos to people calling an ace, a skunk a skunk. Kudos to that individual. I'm proud of him.
I'm pretty sure his name will come out later, but we have to make sure that we keep folks focused on those little girls who were violated by Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. So I'm saying here, I don't believe he's a pedophile protector. I believe he's a pedophile. The system and the agencies are protecting him. I believe Epstein. I believe him. To be honest with you, I believe you could throw Clinton in that pot. They're all pedophiles. And I don't look at the women right now with their age. I say it has to be justice for those little girls. Look at those pictures of those little girls when they were violated. Those are the folks that need justice because some of those women lost their childhood. They lost their youth and they were never able to get it back. And there has to be justice for that. No matter what Donald Trump does, it will never change the fact that the sitting United States president is a pedophile and a rapist. And that's not going to change because he wants to invade Greenland, because he wants to bomb Iran or Iraq. It's not going to change because of those things.
Al, I agree with you on every single thing you said. And we talked before, and I said this, and this goes back to the ICE thing, but he's redirected money away from those who are supposed to be stopping sex trafficking of underage children in this country. He's redirected them to put that money on ICE. So his concern about the sex trafficking of underage girls doesn't exist. He doesn't see it as a problem because he's part of it. He doesn't see it wrong because he's part of it. But I'd like to read you some names of people that he did pardon from the January 6th riot. He pardoned last January 2025 that have committed sexual crimes. And I'm just reading, you can go on the internet and you can find this yourself. So I'm gonna read these down. These are pardons of sex offenders. Theodore Middenoff pled guilty in 2024 of criminal sexual assault of a 7-year-old. He's serving 19 years in prison. And that's after he was pardoned by Trump. Casey Hopkins was in 2002 convicted for forcible rape. He spent 7 years in prison. Trump gave him a pardon, the January 6th activity. Edward Hemingway pled guilty to sexual battery and criminal confinement, which is essentially kidnapping, in my opinion. Andrew Johnson was arrested on multiple child sex abuse charges in 2025, including molesting a child under 12 years of age. Andrew Takey, arrested on a pre-existing warrant for solicitation of a minor. Kyle Travis and David Daniel had charges against them related to child pornography. These are the people that Trump relates to. These are the people that Trump pardoned for their actions in the January 6th riot and attack on our country. These are pedophiles. And he pardoned these pedophiles. He let them back out into our community. He let them free to go and sexually molest other young girls. And that's who we're dealing with. I'm not going to get distracted from that. You know, there's a lot of other things we can talk about that I don't believe in, that he's doing that's wrong for this country. But that one, he's not going to run from that one. And the Republican Party's not going to run from that one because they allow that too.
And I'll say it again. I don't care how many countries he bombs. I don't care how many tariffs he puts out to try to distract people. All the ridiculous lies he tells just to distract you. The sitting president of the United States is a pedophile. And until we deal with that, there's a stain on this country that every other country in the world is just sitting back saying, you have no moral ground to make any argument to what we're doing over here until you correct your own in-house situation.
And we got to clean up our own backyard before we complain about somebody else's.
Good, that's correct. So I'll leave you with the last word.
You know, I really would like to say this coming week is going to be better than the last week. I don't think so with the administration, but I do believe this, and that is the statistics that's coming out that people are getting tired of all of the division and crap that Trump is doing. And it's taken a while. It's taken too long, but it is happening. The statistics are showing that the shift of popularity of Trump is going from positive into the negative zone. And if we keep doing what we're doing, you and I and all the other Americans out there, standing up for what's right, standing on the right side of history, Trump will be gone.
Well said. Let's keep the prayers going. So I'll see you at the end of next week. I know there's going to be some additional madness, and I know we'll be able to speak to it, and we'll keep this fight going. You take care,
will.
my brother.
All right, you two take care.
Hello, folks. We've come to the end of another episode. Please be sure to hit the share, like, and subscribe button below because I want to keep this fight going. Also, don't forget to leave your comments. We're interested in what you're thinking, unless you're a far right-wing nut, and we don't give a damn what you're thinking. So until next week, let's stay in the struggle and don't give up the fight. Peace.
This segment of Al's Joint is brought to you by J-Pack Trucking.